Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Join us every week for educational information on subjects such as personal injury, family law, home care, tax relief, wealth management, plastic surgery, and air condition repairs. Now, sit back and get educated by some of Milwaukee's finest experts in their field.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts right here on the Big 920, thebig920.com, streaming nationwide and beyond via the iHeartRadio app. This is WOKY and my name is Mitch Nellis, a.k.a. Thunder, your venerable host of the show. I was trying to think of the right adjective there. Today we are joined by our initial guest. John Groth from Groth Law Firm joined us about a month ago, and he is here this morning. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Groundbreaking guest, initial guest, sure.
Yeah, inaugural guest.
Inaugural. Sounds
absolutely. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And you are joined today in studio by attorney Melissa Fisher, who is with Groth Law Firm as well. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning, Mitch.
Good to see you.
You as well.
Bright and early.
Very much so.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, John, last time you talked, we got to meet you and you introduced yourselves, and I'll have you talk a little bit about yourself again, but we're going to go to Melissa first. And Melissa, tell us a little about yourself, where you're from, how'd you get into law, just your elevator pitch, that sort of thing.
Sure. So I have been with the Groth Law Firm for the past 2.5 years, but before that, I went to Marquette Law School. I was a 2015 grad. Prior to that, I attended the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, where I majored in business administration and with a marketing concentration.
Okay.
Born and raised in Hartford, so about 35 minutes north of here.
Got it.
So a Wisconsin girl for life. No
is that where you went to high school, or?
It is.
Okay, nice.
It is.
Yep.
Good old HUHS. So, and like I said, I've been with the Groth Law Firm for the past about 2.5 years now. So it's been a blissful start to the career.
John, would you concur with that assessment?
Blissful is a great word.
Nice.
Yes, blissful. Yes.
Good to hear. And John, why don't you remind us, where are you from and how long have you been doing what you've been doing?
Sure. I'm a Milwaukee born and raised kid. I graduated in, if you want to go back to high school, 1993 sure. In high school, if you want to go way back when.
So you got me by 1 year. I was 94.
Oh,
yeah, so.
I am just an old man, aren't I?
The oldest man in the room.
That's true. Sadly so. I graduated from Marquette Law in 2000, and I've been a personal injury attorney since then. Before that, I worked at an injury firm in Chicago, and that's kind of where I got the bug, and I really enjoyed helping people out and advocating for people. And then I worked for a firm in Waukesha where I did litigation, and I really enjoyed doing litigation, and then worked for one of the bigger personal injury firms in Wisconsin, and that's kind of where it all goes from there. And then I started Groth Law Firm in 2010.
Okay.
So for the past 7 years, we've been out and about, and we just moved our office to about 111th and Blue Mound, so sure. We're as easy as we can be to find.
Yep, 111th and Blue Mound, right off of Blue Mound and Highway 100, right by Moe's. Everybody knows where Moe's Irish Pub
Suburbia,
is.
Sure.
Yep, exactly. Melissa, John just used the words helping and advocating, and I think those aren't necessarily two words that jump out to people when they think about lawyers. Talk about what you guys do special at Groth Law Firm that really makes those two words important to what you do.
Thanks, Mitch. I agree that you don't hear that a whole lot when you think about hiring an attorney and things like that. But I would have to say that at Groth Law Firm, and of course that is in my career since I've graduated the only place I've practiced, but I have worked at a few other firms just clerking and doing things like that, and certainly have friends from law school that work in many other firms, so we do talk about that. And what I think Groth Law Firm does maybe differently in the helping and the advocating, that's where this comes in, is that we take an individual approach with clients. So a client calls in, they'll get an attorney on the phone. And that's, like I said, where the individual portion of it comes in. We don't have our paralegals handling the cases until litigation. We take, clients, I don't want to say hand by hand, but we walk them through the entire process. And even if it's a potential client call, they'll speak with an attorney. It won't necessarily be an intake specialist or anything like that. So along the whole process, we want to work with them, help them, and advocate for them.
So I have to imagine that makes a number of your clients and even potential clients feel quite comfortable. I'm not in the position where I've called a number of law firms for issues, but I like the idea that if I'm calling a law firm, I'm talking to a lawyer. I'm not talking to someone who's in law school or someone who's been trained in the law but isn't officially a lawyer. I like that.
Absolutely.
So what, how did you, John, how did you come to that was something that was important to you?
Years and years of experience and just seeing what's going on other places and really trying to differentiate yourself. There's a lot of us out there, lots of personal injury attorneys, and you can go online and find many more that you never even knew existed, because I just saw yesterday there are advertisers in the Wisconsin Google market, I'll call it, and you go on the Google machine and type in personal injury. There's attorneys in California I saw yesterday, and then a gentleman in New York who's a New York personal injury attorney, but he's running ads in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin. So,
well, I want to talk to somebody here. I mean, first of all, I want to talk to somebody here, and you guys are here. But second of all, I want to talk to one of you.
Yeah.
Or a lawyer in the law firm, as opposed to someone who has a form. I'm picturing, I call up a law firm, they have, a piece of paper, they have their checklist, blah, 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 and then they decide whether I talk to a lawyer or not. I like the idea that I talk to a lawyer.
And that's the difference. And that's what we've been looking at over the past 17 years as the experience was you're looking at ways that you can differentiate yourself and listen to clients and potential clients and figure out what they want or what they wanted and why they did or did not choose your firm, and then say, okay, well, this is really not only what people are looking for, number one, but it really helps us advocate for those people, number two, because when you're meeting with the person for the first time, you're getting information from them, and then as you're taking your notes and entering into the computer and going through things, you can be able to advocate for them and the tricks of the trade, and there are certain things that you can then use maybe 6 months from now, but that's something you gathered at the intake, and maybe the intake specialist or somebody else who's asking certain questions didn't have the same experience that you did, or certainly that person, if they aren't an attorney and haven't tried a case, they don't have that same experience as to what somebody says December 2015 may hurt them December 2018 when a trial takes place. So you want to make sure that you're aware of it and you are involved from the get-go, so you have the whole picture, and you can help them and you can advocate for them when you're getting in front of a jury.
That makes a lot of sense. John Groth and Melissa Fisher joining me today from Groth Law Firm here on Ask the Experts. So, Melissa, take us through the process a little bit. So something went wrong, something happened, and I need a lawyer. And I call you at 375-2030, 414-375-2030, and I get connected to you. What
happens next?
What happens? Yeah, I don't know.
And to start that off, I do want to say, if the accident happens at all hours of the night, we do always have an attorney on call. So there's 5 of us attorneys. Somebody is assigned a week. So any time of day, we will take the call. We see a message come through, we will get back in touch momentarily.
Sure.
So from the initial call, we would go through. We have like you said, it's an intake form. It's very thorough. So we want to gather as much information as we can. The date of the incident, contact information for the person first and foremost, name, address, phone number. What are the injuries? Is the car damaged? Who are the different players? So do you have auto insurance? Did the other driver have auto insurance? Did the police come? So all of these important details that when you call up the insurance company to let them know that you're working with this individual, that they are going to ask. So you have that at your disposal.
So the more information you have or you collect or you remember, the better that first conversation goes. Because I'm guessing a lot of people call up, don't have half that information. You say, here's your homework.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Or it's in the police report, which we will certainly gather that as well. After that, that's when we go through the in our office, and sometimes we roundtable these cases because every case is different. The facts and the circumstances is this a person that we are able to help? Can we handle this case? If so, we go ahead and we get the file up and running. We get a signed retainer from the client, sit down with them, give them more details about our firm, take them through the retainer agreement, make sure they understand.
So I'm going to break in right there too. So when I make that first call, the first thing you're asking me isn't for the retainer information. Because I would have the perception, okay, I'm calling a law firm. How much is this going to cost me just to even make this first phone call? It sounds like that first phone call, I don't want to say it's free, but is part of the process.
Correct.
It's free, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It is really.
Okay.
You hear the phrase free consultation, but truly that's what it is.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I mean, again, if I'm making that phone call, I don't know, my perception, and you guys can be mad at me because you guys are the lawyers in the rooms. My perception is one of those first questions would be, okay, just so you know, I got your name and I got your insurance information. There's an accident. Now I need your credit card information because, this phone call's $100 or whatever. And then we'll set something up after that. So that's not necessarily the case.
Well, and I think just the notion in today's society that time is money, that is a good, honest first thought when somebody is calling up. But we explain to them, because that is, again, a question we get quite frequently.
Yeah.
If we get it before going through the retainer agreement with the client, we certainly will face that head on and go through the fee structure with them. But we tell them right up front that this is a contingency fee agreement. I think it's we say the last sentence of the second paragraph of the agreement is the most important one. And in that it says, we do not recover if you do not recover. So if nothing is recovered, nothing's owed to the law firm. They don't charge us hourly. We don't require a retainer fee up front. It's strictly that contingency basis.
Got it. So I've made the call. We've had the conversation. You guys maybe have roundtabled and decided it is a case you're going to take. Then what?
Well, and this is important because we were just talking about this the other day, that people get people have the thought, it's a misconception that once we call an attorney, it's going into suit, or that we have a lawsuit, or we have a lawyer, therefore the lawyer is filing a lawsuit immediately, or things like that. And that's something that a lawsuit is a very formal situation. And Melissa can talk about this. She's been in depositions, it seems, every other day these past few weeks. But depositions and such are very formal proceedings, and that's what happens when you're in a lawsuit. Okay. But in the very beginning, the goal from the get-go and all along is to try to settle the case without a lawsuit, because lawsuit means more stress, more work, very formalized process. So when you first call, there's a claim or a case, but not necessarily a lawsuit.
Got it. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about that process when we come back. John Groth and Melissa Fisher are here with me from Groth Law Firm. Go to Groth, Groth, growthlawfirm.com. That's growthlawfirm.com. You can call them at 414-375-2030. That's 375-2030. They are on 111th and Blue Mound in Tulsa. John and Melissa will be right back on Ask the Experts. And welcome back to Ask the Experts here on the Big 920, thebig920.com, streaming nationwide and beyond via the iHeartRadio app. Mitch Nellis here with you this early Sunday morning for Ask the Experts. And today my guests from Groth Law Firm are John Groth and Melissa Fisher. And I see you guys brought your own coffee, and you didn't bring me a cup this morning, so thank you. No, I brought my own. I'm just kidding. I just had to bust. Didn't you give me coffee
I
last
did get
month?
you coffee last time. Ooh, I messed up this time. Next
Well,
time.
Now you've set the precedent that you don't have to bring in coffee for me.
There we go.
I don't know if I like that precedent.
I am fine with that precedent. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, John, Melissa, thanks so much for joining us this morning. To find them, go to growthlawfirm.com. That's Groth, growthlawfirm.com. And you can find their bios and find out that Melissa was involved in competitive dance when she was growing up, and which is actually very cool, and is involved in a number of fundraisers around the community as well. And we can get into that. But
She had one yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We did.
Awesome. Very cool.
We hosted it. It was called Race for Your Reason. It was hosted at the corners of Brookfield.
Sure, yeah.
It was a 5K run, 1 mile walk. We had a great turnout. The interesting thing about this event was there were 5 different causes or charities. You could choose which reason you were racing.
That's
so you
pretty
could pick, whatever charity you wanted your money to go towards, or you could split it between the 5 if not one really stuck out at you. So it was unique in that
That's great.
respect.
Sounds like a great event.
And Groth Law Firm was a big sponsor in that.
There we go.
Awesome. Doing good things in the community. I love it.
We try. We certainly do.
Absolutely. So before the break, we were talking a little bit, and John, you mentioned, that oftentimes the goal is to settle without a lawsuit, because a lawsuit means more time, and time is money, more money itself, and more headaches, more stress, and I'll say more time again, because it's not, I can't imagine, but I just feel like I know that when you're in a lawsuit, it drags and drags, and there's motions, and there's this and there's that, and so Melissa, if I'm working with you guys and we're going through the process and we've done the intake and you guys have met, and then you decide to take on the case, and so then what happens if I'm the client and I'm kind of, here's my case and we have a good case and we're going to get hopefully the money or the restitution or whatever is due. How does that process go, especially if we're talking about settling without a lawsuit?
That is a great question, because I think the common misconception nowadays, just from TV shows and movies, it seems that in a movie somebody meets with a lawyer and then the next scene they're in the courtroom, and that is not how it works.
That is how movies work. Nicely done.
In real life, that is not, at least in our arena, that's not.
So you don't take the case and then everybody gets in the Batmobile and drives down to the courthouse?
Well, in this case, it'd be the Groth mobile.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
So, no, and again, for us, we practice exclusively personal injury, so we do this, day in and day out. So to us, it's second nature, but at times we do need to take a step back, because more often than not, we get the question, when am I going to court? And
Right.
and you can't blame them, because that's what they see on TV, and that's what they see in movies and books and whatnot. So what we explain to them is that at this point, there is no active litigation. This is not a lawsuit. Folks hear lawyer and think lawsuit. At first, it starts off, like John said, as an insurance claim most times.
Okay.
So we contact the insurance company, put them on notice of our representation, and we kind of go through the process that way. Most of the times, in many of our cases, the clients are injured. So there's not a whole lot we can do until they're done treating for their injuries.
Okay.
So it's at the forefront of the case, it's primarily dependent upon how long until they are at usually what they call it is an end of healing. So either they're as good as they were before the accident, or a doctor says they're as good as they're going to get.
Okay. That's fair. They usually don't get even better, though. That old joke. Doctor, am I going to be able to play the piano after this operation? Sure. Great. I've never been able to play before. That usually doesn't happen. Right.
You don't acquire skills usually.
Right. So how long is that process? And I'm guessing it's different for everybody. But what have you seen? What different timetables have you seen for the healing process? For then figuring out, all right, here's what all the hospital bills cost, and here's all the time missed at work cost, and here's all the hiring, someone to drive your kids around because you couldn't drive. I'm guessing all of that goes into the number that people are looking just to get back whole again. They're not. I'm sure some people get in an accident and say, "Oh, I'm going to get rich off of this," but I'm guessing most people just want to be whole again.
Absolutely. And again, it is largely dependent upon the extent of the injuries. So if it's they kink their neck a little bit, they may need 4 to 6 weeks of physical therapy or whatever it may be. If they fractured something, they may need surgery. So it can go from anywhere from a couple weeks to many, many months or even years, depending on the injuries.
Can Aaron Rodgers sue Anthony Barr for breaking his shoulder?
There's probably some contractual thing that he can't, or they have to go through arbitration or something like that.
I'm not so concerned about Aaron. I just wish that, like, in football, instead of your backup being your quarterback then, maybe you could get the restitution that you get someone of equal value if you're quarterback.
Well, but who else is of that same level?
It's true. That's a good point.
And I would never want Brady to come play for the Packers. So
then you're wrong.
And he's not as good as Rodgers. So
right, of course.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about making restitution and making people whole again, what is involved in that? I mentioned a few of the things. The missing work, hospital bills, child care, whatever. I mean, is literally everything in your life affected when you had, depending on the injury, of course, but when you have an injury?
Well, yes, I would say everything in your life is affected. Let me go back a little bit and just say that when you're looking at what you're including, there are some places, and maybe it's movies or books or radio ads or TV ads, that you say it's the get in a wreck, get a check, and it's really a fast process, or there's the hope that it's a fast process. I think my experience is, and I think our goal is, that in all honesty, it's not a fast process, because we don't want to leave that stone unturned. Because what if you settle too soon? And years and years ago, this is a true story. I had a case. We settled for an amount of money, and literally a year later, my client, I'll call him Jamie, or James, or Jim, whatever I'll call him. Jim comes and says, "Hey, John, can I make another claim for X, Y, and Z?" And I was like, "No, you can't. We settled."
Right.
And I think about that all the time, because I want to make sure that when I'm talking to my clients, that they understand, if we settle, that's all.
That's it. You're done.
And that's all you're ever going to get for this claim. So we got to make sure that we're putting everything into that basket now, because we're not going to be able to come back. And this is something that I know I said in my closing arguments before juries, and other attorneys in the office have said this similar thing, that when you're in your closing argument, you're talking to the jury about what amount of money they should award your client, what they should write down on that special verdict and compensation. Mm-hmm. We tell them, you can't come back 6 years from now or 10 years from now and check in and say, hey, did you really only need 15 sessions of physical therapy? Hey, here's a couple more because we forgot, or we didn't think this or that. You can't. So you have to include it all. You get one kick at the cat usually, and that's it. So being thorough and trying to include everything in is important. And then that goes to your question. It's everything from certainly the doctor's bills, and that includes the actual bills, the co-pays, things like that.
Okay.
And then working with them to make sure that the bills don't go into collection, do whatever we can to try to get those bills paid, so you're not hurting your credit. To pain and suffering, that's this magic number that no one really knows what it is, but through our experience we can figure out what juries award for pain and suffering and such. Wage loss of earning capacity is kind of the way we say it in our world. Mileage to the doctor, so is it 27 cents, 51 cents, whatever the government has at that period of time. This month. And it can go down to if I broke my leg and I would mow the lawn and now I can't, so I do have to hire
a neighborhood kid to mow the
Jimmy
lawn.
Joe down the street to come mow it, and that's $20. So that's something we include also. So all those incidental costs, and there could be dozens and dozens of those possibilities as what those incidentals are.
Yeah.
But it's the whole gamut, and making sure that we have all that included when we're submitting the claim initially to the insurance company to try to settle pre-suit. And if the insurance company says we don't believe you, or there isn't a way that we can max your case, I think we talked last time about trying to get the at-fault party, the insurance company, to offer as much as possible, and then trying to get the paybacks, paying back health insurance or doctors or whomever to take as little as possible. And that difference is what we can get for you, and that's how we really earn our keep. Trying to max your case, if we can do that pre-suit, great. If we can't, then the next step is filing a lawsuit, and then you go into that very formal process.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about that process. I also want to talk about something you just touched on, that idea of paybacks, and that idea of, how do you maximize the effect of becoming whole again? And again, I'm not talking about getting rich and making money off, somebody, I got in a fender bender and, pain and suffering's $2 million. I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about something that you guys talk about a lot, making someone whole again and how that process happens, because I have a couple questions about that. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. This is Ask the Experts on the Big 920, thebig920.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We are joined today by Melissa and John Groth and Melissa Fisher from Groth Law Firm. Go to growthlawfirm.com. That's Groth, Groth, growthlawfirm.com, right here on Ask the Experts. This is Ask the Experts on the Big 920, thebig920.com, streaming nationwide and beyond via the iHeartRadio app. It's a free app. Get it on your phone today. Thank you for sharing your Sunday morning with us. My name is Mitch Nellis, and today our guests on Ask the Experts are John Groth and Melissa Fisher from Groth Law Firm. They're on 111th and Blue Mound. You can call them 414-375-2030, 414-375-2030, or visit their website at growthlawfirm.com. Groth Law Firm, skilled, dedicated, and proven. Before the last break, we were talking with Melissa and John about, the entire discussion is really process-oriented. All right, so I get in an accident, then what do I do? Okay, I've had a conversation with you, then what do I do? Okay, the police got involved, what do I do? The other person has insurance, doesn't have insurance, what do I do? And we're at the point where I have doctor bills. John, you made the example, I broke my leg and so I can't mow the lawn, so I got to pay the neighborhood kid $20 every week to mow the lawn. Because I broke my leg, I can't drive, so it's great that I have other parents in the neighborhood to drive my kids around for carpool, but every once in a while, I got to pay that same high school, knock on wood, they have a good driving record. I'm paying a high schooler to drive my kid home from school because there's just no one else to give a ride. I'm guessing there are 20 other situations where, you have to pay somebody where you weren't paying somebody because you can't drive, or you can't turn your head, or you can't, whatever it may be. My question is, how do people pay for that? I think about what I do for a living and what most people do for a living, and we try to retain as much wealth as we can, and people try to save, and people try to, there's an emergency fund, and if you have to dip into your kid's college fund or what, but from the horror stories, medical bills are ridiculous and insane, and we could talk about our country's medical system with that, but we're going to avoid that. But what do people do when the bills just start mounting up and mounting up and mounting up? How do they take care of that?
I wish I had a magic wand that I could solve this problem, but it's something where if you look at so somebody comes in and they look at the situation and you're trying to figure out, okay, how are you getting by? One of the questions we ask is, do you have short-term disability? Do you have the Aflac duck, or is it a goose? It's a duck, I think.
A duck.
It's a duck.
So do you have the duck who do you have any kind of short-term disability insurance that can get you by, number one? Number two, your doctors, who are you going to? Do you have health insurance that's going to be covering the majority of the doctor's bills, but then you're stuck paying your copay, or maybe you have a deductible to meet? So then you look at what kind of auto insurance do you have, which is MedPay. And MedPay is meant to kind of fill in the gaps there. But that just takes us through what the medical expenses are. Now, if you have to get into a car and go to the doctor, that goes back to our ability, or our network, and our friends or people we've done business with in the past. What connections do we have that we can help you get to the doctor, get to physical therapy? And there are those med transport vans you see, like ATI Physical Therapy, for example. They have people on staff that they'll drive you to and from visits, things like that.
Okay.
There's other companies that you can hire. There are...
but how do you pay them?
There are companies you can hire that will, in essence, take a, quote, letter of protection.
Okay.
What that means is that when you have an attorney, the company then trusts that the attorney is going to do their job and pay them back in the end.
Got it.
And they really, it's a handshake deal, or well, it's in writing. There's an actual letter that says, we will protect your $50 cab ride, I guess I'll call it.
Okay.
Or your fee to get so-and-so from here to there, things like that. Or if you don't have health insurance and you have very little med pay, for example, but you have to get care, there are certain providers, there are certain companies we can get you to. There are medical providers in the area that work with charities. Children's Hospital, Freighter, they have a charitable wing. Aurora has the same thing.
Sure.
There are other smaller clinics around town that we have worked with, that we have an experience with, that they'll trust us to say, okay, in the end, we'll work with them to get their bill paid, and they'll see somebody and not ask for that copay every time,
right?
And not going to add that added stress.
Because part of that scary part is what you guys talked about, is the time. Is that it's not a flip the switch. Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about it last time, how nice it would be if the insurance company just took care of everything and you didn't have to worry about it. And,
exactly.
what a great world that would be if we had a utopia. But it's not that way. And so it can take months or even years sometimes to finalize everything and to be able to pay everything back. And, it's on some level, it's comforting to know that there are these companies out there who do, have signed contracts, but who do things on credit and do things based on expected return, I'm guessing,
Sure.
And part of it is betting on the come. They're betting that the money's going to come, and I'm guessing they have the numbers. I'm guessing you have the numbers of what percent ends up coming, what percent doesn't, and what which insurance companies they'll look at and they'll say, yeah, that company usually takes care of people and this one doesn't, and I'm sure all those numbers are out there.
And really, they have to trust our advice and trust us that when we say, hey, can you in essence front $100, that we understand that they're going to get paid back $100 later on,
right?
Or $105 or whatever they're going to charge. The worst case scenario, and this is something that that we see pretty frequently, because these companies run advertisements on, I guess, daytime daytime TV or
Sure.
things like that, where it's these pre-settlement finance companies.
Yes. Okay.
And there are these companies that say, hey, if you're injured, we can get you money literally today.
Yeah.
And they will wire money
at
to
what
you.
percent?
It's like 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these places are 40-some percent. There are some places that are more local. There's a Chicago company. There's actually a company in Oak Creek or in Wisconsin that loans money more on like a credit card basis, where it's about 18-20%.
Okay.
That's a lot more reasonable.
I was going to say, at least that's in line with what credit cards are, as opposed to some of these companies. It sounds like are just absurd.
Oh, it's crazy. There's what was the last case? We had a really extreme situation where the payback was $15,000, and I think the initial amount was like $4,000 or $5,000. So that's just crazy, because now you're
talk about not getting whole again.
Oh my goodness! Well, yeah, you just paid $10,000 for this company
Yeah.
It's a very bad situation.
I can see the steam coming out
yes,
of your
I know.
you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know these companies. One of the things we were talking about last segment, and I kind of want to get back to with you, Melissa, is this concept of, all right, so we're going through this whole process. There's dollar amounts, there's pain and suffering, there's this, but a lot of times that doesn't necessarily mean it goes fully into a suit. A lot of times it goes, in that it's very formal, but before you're that or during that process, how do I hear the word depositions and I think I know what that means. What does that mean?
So a deposition is a very formal proceeding that actually takes place after suit is filed.
Okay.
And so I've had lots of these in the past 3 weeks. So I'm they're very fresh in my mind.
Sure.
But again, it's a very formal proceeding, and I think it's a term that's thrown around in the legal community, so folks have heard it.
Yeah.
And might wonder what it is, but it's a formal proceeding that once a case is formally in suit, it's assigned a case number, assigned a judge. Then you start the discovery process. So each side is essentially preparing their case for a trial, because that's eventually how far this could go if it does not resolve. And so you start with written discovery. So you send a series of questions back and forth between the parties. They have 30 to 45 days to answer them.
So again, time.
Time,
You know,
exactly.
It's not, they don't get it back in 24 to 48 hours.
No.
Oh, no, never. And then the next step, once you have your written discovery done, then they have an idea, a general idea of what you're going to talk about. So they say, now we want to sit down with you. They've had time to gather your client's medical records. They know usually their medical records from 10 years before the accident too. Sure. So they're very well versed.
Pre-existing conditions.
Exactly.
Like that.
So once the parties are ready, then they will usually send a notice of deposition saying, we want to sit down and actually talk to your client. That is their one opportunity before trial to sit down, see what kind of person your client is, and just really get some more information that might be too much to gather with written questions.
Are you allowed to be there for that?
Yes.
Okay. So if I
we have to be there.
Right,
I
so
wouldn't allow it to happen.
Right. Well,
yeah.
I just want to make sure that if I get called in and they have their one opportunity that I have a friendly face in the room as well.
Absolutely. Any party to the lawsuit is allowed to be there. So, if I'm deposing the at-fault driver, my client could essentially sit in if he or she chose to as well. So any party is allowed to be there. And usually what I tell clients in preparing them for depositions is the reason for depositions really is twofold. First and foremost, the defense attorney wants to get to know you. They want to see what kind of person you are, see how well you might present to a jury, because that definitely factors into what they might be willing to offer. If they think
Sure.
you're an easily agitated person, you're not going to present well, I think that's going to devalue the case in their eyes, and they're going to take it back to their adjuster and say, we want to put this person on the stand. A
Right.
jury may not like them. But on the flip side, if you present well,
If
it
you're
could
buttoned
go
up and,
absolutely. It can go
and I'm
very
guessing
well.
you guys provide some of that training sometimes if somebody needs it?
Certainly.
Yeah, we. I think my old saying was perception is reality.
Sure.
And the way it's probably not right, but we're not in utopia, like you said. You have to understand that there's the way you present to the other side, and this is some attorney who has a whole different life experience, certainly. Mm-hmm. How you present to them it is going to really factor in to how they then go back to the insurance company and say what their opinions are. And many times, their opinion is dead wrong. And there was that one case where it was years afterwards, and they even refused to pay property damage. So I think it was 4 years later.
4.5.
4.5. The insurance company didn't pay for the property damage to the vehicle because they didn't like the injured people. It was crazy.
They just didn't like them.
Didn't like them.
And so they withheld payment.
They thought that it was, in essence, that it was a scam.
Okay.
But
that they were money hungry.
That they were money hungry.
Right.
But it was crazy because our clients were sitting at a stop sign or stoplight?
Stoplight.
At a stoplight, and were rear-ended.
Yeah.
Well, how in any world...
How could you set that up?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So those kind of situations, that was just one person's opinion on somebody else's life choices and life experiences, and then we had to go all the way to trial, and that's why it took forever for other reasons too. But finally, Melissa tried the case and got what should have been paid in any other situation 3 or 4 years earlier.
So we go into depositions, and I meet with the other lawyer, and it's ongoing, and they like me, they don't like me, whatever. Can you still settle at that point? Or once you're in depositions with a suit, do you have to go to court? How does that work?
You absolutely do not have to go to court. Usually after a and I want to go back, I said that there were two primary reasons for the deposition. The one was to get to know you, and this is their one opportunity to speak with you prior to trial. The second is just so that they can gather more information for their eventual potential trial, I guess I'll say. And if you testify different at trial, they use that against you. But after depositions, typically what the next step is a mediation. And if a case is going to settle 9.5 times out of 10 before trial, it will be at mediation.
Got it. That makes sense. And so you're still, I don't know exactly how to say this perception of it, but I think we have the perception that a lot of time personal injury lawyers don't see courtrooms. And it sounds like the goal is not to see the courtroom, but the goal, you guys are firm believers, and the goal is not to be done with the case tomorrow. The goal is to do what's right by the client.
Correct. Yeah, and that's really, it's somewhat different than some other firms where I tell my clients early on, this might be an odd relationship or an odd thing to discuss, our relationship, but we may be in a long-term relationship together because I don't want to settle your case too early. Right. Because we're going to leave things off the table. So you have to make sure you like us and that we're going to be able to get along for maybe years upon years. So. And
I think that is the cardinal sin that we could commit as personal injury attorneys is to settle a case before it's ready to be resolved. We want to make sure that everything is accounted for and that something will not come up years down the road, even months or years down the road.
John Groth and Melissa Fisher are here from Groth Law Firm, Groth, growthlawfirm.com. Give them a call, 414-375-2030. Taking you through the process today. We'll come back and discuss it a little bit more and wrap things up on this Sunday morning. John Groth, Melissa Fisher from Groth Law Firm. This is Ask the Experts. You are listening to Ask the Experts on the Big 920, thebig920.com, streaming nationwide and beyond by the iHeartRadio app. Today, John Groth and Melissa Fisher are here from Groth Law Firm. They're taking us through the process. If you've been injured, if you've been hurt in an accident, what to do, how to go through the process. And as they're sharing with us today, it's not an overnight process. The process needs to be done the right way. And it's not like you get second and third and fourth chances. It has to be done the right way the first time. John, you were sharing with me a little bit off the air about how important it is to remember that things need to be done the right way, and that, yes, I got injured and my car's broken and I need a new car, and this is what the medical bills are going to be. But it really isn't an overnight process.
And it's an adversarial process where the insurance company's in business to take in as much as they can in premiums and pay out as little as possible in claims. That's how they make money, and that's fine. It's America; they can do what they want, and they're doing quite well, as you can see from Acuity's flag or their new structure and AmFam's at the AmFam Theater or whatever it's called now. But they're doing well. They have teams and teams of paralegals and attorneys and such that are advocating for them, and they literally have consultants that come and go and talk to their adjusters. Sometimes there are different pre-suit or pre-repped adjusters than there are repped adjusters, kind of like in that old movie Office Space where one guy says, sure, I can talk to regular people or something like that, right?
Right.
There are adjusters that just deal with people who are injured parties who don't have attorneys because that's their skill. And the reason they do that is because they're trying to do what they can for the insurance company. They're not advocating for you. So it can be kind of complex, and that's what we want to do is we want to help that injured person to really take the stress away so they can worry about just getting better, and we'll worry about the stress of whether we cross our T's or dot our I's or say the right or the wrong thing to the insurance company. That's on us. We don't want you to say, okay, well, I need to talk to the insurance company. I'm going to Google what should I say to the insurance company,
right?
Because if you get something from New Mexico, it's going to be different than Wisconsin, and there might be a guy in New York who says something different. It can really be complex. I'm sure you could figure it out over a matter of days or however long it's going to take, but you shouldn't worry about that. You should worry about getting better, number one, and let us help you to advocate for yourself, get you to the right doctor, get you to the care you need, and really have it where you can not have to worry about, did I say the right thing, did I sign the right thing, did I do the right thing when I talk to the insurance company.
And Melissa, I think one of my main takeaways talking with you is that when I call Groth Law Firm, I'm going to be talking to a lawyer, and we're going to get to me that starts the process a little bit more quickly, but it's also more thorough. You have the experience that when you're talking to somebody, you know what you're asking for, the questions to ask, how to make people feel comfortable.
Right. It goes back to that individual approach that I opened with when we began talking this morning. It's just that whether it's pre-suit or it's in suit, the attorney will be walking the client through it step by step.
I think that's great. Melissa Fisher, John Groth, thank you so much for taking the time with me this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch.
Absolutely. For more information, visit growthlawfirm.com. That's GROTH, growthlawfirm.com. Give them a call, 414-375-2030. 414-375-2030. They're right at 111th in Blue Mound in Tosa, just west of Highway 100, 111th in Blue Mound. You can't miss them. For John Groth and Melissa Fisher, this is the Big 920, thebig920.com, and the iHeartRadio app. My name is Mitch Nellis, and this is Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in to Ask the Experts. Join us again next Sunday morning between 8 and 9 for more Ask the Experts from local experts in their field. Experts in their field. Experts in their field. Experts in their field. Experts in their field.